So, I teased at the existence of this video back in the Joker video, I think. It's been a long time coming. This is 4 months overdue, I'd say. Quite frankly, I ran into multiple complications making this, both in terms of editing and in terms of, well, 2020 reasons. But here it is. Finally, from here I'll cut to what is the 2019 Film Retrospective. Hope you enjoy it. There are 63, I believe, mini reviews within this. Feel free to jump around. So here is every film I saw released in the year 2019, from the worst one to my favourite. Enjoy. Look, this is not a film. Netflix made a feature-length advert for their own service and called it a documentary. That's all that happened here. You've seen teen comedies before, right? So, I mean, you know how this one goes. Just, like, watch a better one? I don't know. Richard Dreyfuss is actually really funny in one scene in this film. Yeah, one scene isn't enough to recommend this. Okay, two things really annoy me in satirical comedies. That being when they feel the need to explain their jokes and when they unironically use the same cliches as the things they're satirizing. That being said, don't watch Isn't It Romantic? It's Adam Sandler comedy. It's not the worst one, but it's not good. Remember the Minion shorts on the Despicable Me DVD? Well, this is like if they stitched them together and called it Despicable Me 4. Velvet Buzzsaw has a great concept for a quirky horror film that doesn't take itself too seriously, but the problem is Velvet Buzzsaw takes itself way too seriously. To be honest, I barely remember this film, other than the fact it's really boring. Jennifer Caitlin Robinson actually seems like a pretty good director. It's just her script is far too generic and, well, annoying for me to recommend this one. But I do look forward to seeing what she's doing in the future. Just, you might want to give this one a skip. Imagine the 90s animation you love, but you can't tell any of the characters' emotions. Yeah, I think I'll stick to the other one. Look, I like Amy Poehler a lot, but this is her equivalent of those Adam Sandler movies where he goes on holiday with his friends. Tina Fey has some good lines, so that's why it's higher than that one. On paper, Greta should be right up my alley, you know. Great performances, genuinely creepy concept, but there's something missing in this one. I think the script is just a little too undercooked and it lacks the visual impact to make up for it. It's a shame, really. I want to recommend some, but I just can't. Robert Zemeckis decided to brush over a genuinely interesting real-life story to film more scenes of Steve Carell and Leslie Mann playing dolls. Like, the effects are great, but there's really not much else here. Genuinely not as bad as I thought it'd be, but still really misguided and dull. What happened to you, Tim? What happened? I don't want to talk about this one anymore. You'll love this if you agree with AOC politically, and you'll hate it if you don't. Let's move on. This isn't the politics jam. Kind of like The Bucket List, but with teenagers. This made a fine film to put on in the background while I did work. Also, can we agree Departures should be what it's called everywhere, because Then Came You is a terrible title. And what is up with that poster? Like, I'm trying to recommend this movie, but that poster. What? Even. Look, the movie's fine. I liked Glass, and then I loved Glass, and then I kind of hated it. This would be so much higher on the list if it wasn't for that shockingly terrible third act, but like, that third act is really bad. You'll know what I mean if you've seen it. Look, Sean Anders is still a shockingly terrible director, but I mean, this one's capable of getting a few smiles, you know. It's probably pretty good for a family movie night or something. Mindy Kaling's script does offer some laughs and offers a unique insight into the state of the modern comedy scene, but the film as a whole lacks any real impact. It made another great film for putting on the background while I did other things. This really should have just been another season of Between Two Ferns, because the actual interview segments are hilarious, but the when it's trying to be a movie, it's really bad. How did this win Best Picture? How? Just... like, this is a pandering mess that is somewhat redeemed by genuinely great, like, performances. Look, if all you care about is seeing great actors do their thing, then watch Green Book, but what a mess of a film overall. This story deserves better. It does. Yeah, and so did Morrison and Ali. How did this? It's a middle of the pack superhero film. That's what it is. It's enjoyable but forgettable. It's fun for the most part, and I don't know, your little cousin probably loves it. Right. What a mess of a film. My goodness. Like, I recommend it, Chapter 2, just for the experience of seeing something this confused about what it is. I still don't know how to put it into words. It's visually unique, just the right amount of camp, I think. It's far from perfect, but you know, if you like Cube or the original Saw maybe, and you're looking for something else, you'll probably enjoy this. I did. I can see this being a great little film to put on in the background while your like family's over for Christmas, you know, distract the kids, whatever. If you're one of those people that likes to watch a Christmas movie every day leading up to the holidays, I can see this coming part of your yearly rota. I'm a sucker for a great romantic comedy, and this one's genuinely really funny. You know, it's got great characters, good gags. It's a great rainy day film. I feel great soundtrack as well. Actually, a few original songs performed by Randall Park himself under the band name Hello Pearl that I recommend checking out on Spotify. Watch film first though, because there are spoilers in those songs. But you know, I'm a fan of little quirky details like that in a film like this, and yeah, it really delivers. This was meta, funny, insanely well animated. Given how long it took between the announcement of this project to it actually showing up on Netflix, I'm super thrilled with how it turned out in the end. If you're a fan of the original Rocko's Modern Life series on Nickelodeon, then I highly recommend watching this. People hate this thing. I'm not sure why I like it so much, but while watching it I genuinely couldn't stop laughing. I don't really know who to recommend this to. I like it a lot, but from what I've seen you probably won't, but this is my list and I'm putting it here. Essentially just Steven Soderbergh's attempt at The Big Short. This is a very great film with some brilliant performances in it. Not exactly a great film to unwind to after a long day at work or anything, but I think it's worth a watch. This is so much better than I would have presumed it to be. The Child's Play reboot is just pure camp insanity. This will make a great addition to Halloween movie nights in years to come. Even if I'm not a huge fan of Chucky's new redesign, other than that though, this is a very, very fun campy horror film. You know my thoughts on this one already. Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic throughout, but this film doesn't quite have the impact or emotional resonance I feel it's going for, but it is a solid Scorsese-esque thriller with a fantastic performance. I've got nothing against Jogo, it just doesn't quite live up to the hype, personally. You know, nowhere near as quotable, rewatchable, fun, really, as the original, but it really was neat getting to catch up with these characters after 10 years. This was a fun time. Jonah Hill must have really liked Lady Bird, you know, because he made his own version of that. So yeah, if you're still not sick of slightly melodramatic films about teenagers loosely based on the director's real life, then this one's fine. Yeah, it's pretty good.
This is a very slow film, kind of meanders around a little, and I know that won't be for everyone, but if you're in it for really good lead performances and some interesting dialogue, you know, dealing with themes of faith and religion and friendship, things like that, and as well as every now and then deeping its toe into, you know, some more controversial topics, things like that, as this is based on a true story that has a few darker turns to it and stuff, but this isn't what the film chooses to focus on. It focuses more on the idea of clashing ideologies, but still finding a respect and a love within that, which personally I found very interesting, but again, this might be a bit too slow for most audiences. Jordan Peele has really proven himself to be a great director. Us, I think, is more pretentious, less thought out than Get Out was, but this is a solid horror film that really does show its potential to be one of the great horror filmmakers, even if not everything in this film worked for me. If you're looking for a really messed up horror film, then you have to check this one out. If you can't handle really messed up films, then maybe skip it. Like, this gets pretty tough to watch. Part of the enjoyment of this documentary might come from Schadenfreude. Part of the enjoyment of this film might come from Schadenfreude. But genuinely I think Chris Smith has proven himself once again to be one of the best documentarians working today with this one. Always get excited when he releases something. Surprisingly clever at points given the absurd premise. If you've got a dark sense of humour, you'll probably enjoy this one, but be warned, this can be a bit of a tough watch. Despite the change in art style, End of the Fortress really does showcase everything that made Invaderism so great. This is a really interesting documentary to me, because while it stays firmly rooted in science, it never passes judgment on anyone for falling into bizarre thought processes, you know? It gives real flat earthers their time to talk, and ultimately becomes a film about finding human connection. Yeah, a strangely powerful film, I think. A lot of people seem to be fed up with Adam McKay's directing style, but I'm not one of them. Vice is great. This is definitely the most difficult documentary to sit through that I saw this year. But yeah, that's almost my whole review of it. Really, it's really difficult to watch. Directed fantastically, a genuinely engaging story, but boy, this one broke me a little. This film is at its best when it's pretending to be a mid-2000s high school comedy. The actual Spider-Man stuff's pretty good too, but I think it's becoming more and more clear that this isn't what people are watching these movies for anymore. No disrespect to how great Jake Gyllenhaal is though. He really gives us all in this film. It's rare to see a pop star documentary that's this brutally honest. Completely rediscovered my love for Kate Nash's music after this, and I highly recommend checking it out if you're at all into music. I forgot the word music there for a second, that's worrying. This was a great conclusion. Even though it's not quite as good as the other two, I think The Hidden World offers just enough laughs and heart to satisfyingly bring the How to Train Your Dragon franchise to a nice little close. Don't feel paranoid, then check out The Great Hack. In all seriousness, this is a wonderfully put together documentary that came out just at the right time. I think this might be the most important documentary of the year. Seth Rogen's latest offers some very fun meta commentary on the rom-com genre, as well as some surprisingly refreshing political stances. Definitely track this one down if you haven't already. There's a lot more to it than I think most people anticipated going in, including myself. Do you ever just need a good cry? Because Netflix have you covered with this one. This is a great film for a family film night. This is the kind of heartwarming storytelling you don't really get from modern blockbusters anymore. It's a lot of fun. Do I have to explain this one? You've already seen it, judging by the box office numbers. I mean, it's fun, it's heartwarming, it's, you know, brings 10 years worth of movies to a close. You know what it is. You've seen this. Why am I talking about this? The Irishman would have been my favourite miniseries of the year, but for some reason it's a feature film instead. Genuinely one of the best directed movies of the year. All the performances across the board are fantastic, but that runtime is daunting, which is the main reason it isn't higher on this list, even though it's fairly high anyway. I would recommend watching this in sections every now and then. I did have to just walk away from the film and come back to it, so... But hey, that's... I don't know, maybe that's my attention span's fault, not the film's. Either way, fantastic film, another great addition to Scorsese's career. One of the greatest filmmakers of our time decided to make the most accessible film he could, and somehow still ended up with the favourite. All three leads are incredible, the cinematography is fantastic. This was really the perfect way to start off the year, I think. For making me cry like a little child, this film had to make it into my top 10. If the worst film in the franchise is this good, then that really shows you exactly why everyone needs to go back and rewatch the Toy Story films right now. A fun and refreshing take on the sports film genre, Office co-creator Stephen Merchant really knows how to balance comedy and drama to make perfect little feel-good film, you know? And that's precisely what he's done here. Eddie Murphy is back with his first lead role since 2012, and it also happens to be one of the best films of his career. This film had me in stitches throughout, but never really loses its heart, never loses its characters and its integrity. This was written by the same guys that did Ed Wood, so if that gives you any indication to both the quality of the screenplay and to quite how they handle the story of this really eccentric filmmaker and public figure, then yeah, this comes highly recommended from me. Okay, so picture this. It's Bohemian Rhapsody, but it's a musical, and a good movie. This is pure cinema in the best possible way, just a fantastic little film. I went in with really low expectations for Olivia Wilde's directorial debut, but I didn't expect to be moved as much as I was, really. I do fit into the target demographic for this film, I think, age-wise, so I'd probably recommend this more for people my age who've just left high school, maybe leaving high school soon. But I think the film's funny and heartwarming enough for everyone to enjoy, really. Quentin Tarantino is one of my favourite filmmakers of all time. And he said he's only got one film left after this one, so it makes sense to me that his last few features would be vehicles to show off how great he is, and that's precisely what this is. This balances tones perfectly. It's laugh out loud funny, it's edge of your seat tense, it's everything in between, it's everything that makes Tarantino great. So naturally, it's really high on my list. This might be my most controversial opinion of the year, but to me, Under the Silver Lake felt like if David Lynch tried to remake a Hitchcock film, you know? This is bizarrely difficult to track down, I think partly due to its negative critical response, but if you're the kind of person that's willing to go the extra mile to try and support great independent cinema, then please track this down, you know. I think it only got a DVD release, as far as I'm aware. There's not even a Blu-ray or anything for that yet. I haven't seen it show up on streaming services. Amazon, we're supposed to pick up, maybe it's on there by now. This is another one. If you know me personally, just come borrow my DVD if you bring it back in one piece, and then I can talk about this with someone, because no one else has seen this movie in the world, apparently. It's really good. Starting off as this brilliantly pieced together murder mystery and just devolving into something way crazier, Knives Out has to be the most fun I've had while watching a film in 2019. If you haven't seen this already, do yourself a favour and track it down, but go in blind. You know, don't read up about it too much, because this does go some unexpected places and is just so much fun to watch. Apparently, they've announced a sequel. Ryan Johnson is working on another film with Daniel Craig's detective character, and I cannot wait to see what he does with that. While watching Marriage Story, it's hard not to think that Baumbach's career has been kind of leading to this moment. All of his usual themes, his usual eccentricities are all present, but presented in just a far more polished and engaging way than he's ever managed before, and that's no disrespect to his previous films. I've loved everything this man has ever put out. Driver and Johansson are both insanely good in this movie, so are all the supporting cast. And Baumbach's script gives them more than enough to work with. The brilliantly engaging characters, brilliantly engaging story. This one hurts to watch, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. No contest for me. As soon as I saw this, I knew this had to be my pick for best of the year. It's on Netflix, and no one I've spoken to has seen it, so maybe, please, support this film. It's really good. It's really good.
There you have it, guys. The 2019 Film Retrospective. Better late than never. To be aware, I am currently working on more projects. Shows like Nathan likes movies, Nathan likes music don't feel quite as relevant now as they did when I was first planning on starting them, so while I may still talk about, you know, a new film that appears on Netflix or Disney Plus or whatever, or a new album coming out, I'm going to switch my focus for a little while. So I'll be launching my new shows, album by album and film by film, that being where I take a band or artist and I go through each one of their albums individually, in release order, or I go through a film franchise and go through each film in that respective franchise one by one, and we talk about them and you know, get a bit of the history behind it. There'll be links in the description to polls I've made for both shows. I've come up with some ideas that I think might make interesting explorations into them. We'll see what the first series of each ends up being. Those polls will be up for about a week or so probably, so I can start working. Feel free to suggest more opera film franchises, more bands, artists and things you think would be interesting to see in those. This video is going to be long enough anyway, so thanks for watching. You know, hopefully it won't take 4 months to make the next video. Peace.